Jada says to me, "Mom, do you remember when they turned on the fire?" I agreed, and I said, "Yes, I remember." And she said, "Well, I saw something. What did you see?" And she said, it was like a movie in my head, except for it was outside of my eyes. It was all around me. It sounded like she was having some kind of a vision. I said, "What did you see?" And she said, "I saw men with swords all around, and I saw men in robes, and they were white robes. Some of them were holding tall sticks with shiny gold crosses on the top." And she said they were very, very scary. They were gonna make me die. And so instead, I walked into a big fire. And I said, "What do you mean you walked into a fire?" She said, "They were gonna kill me anyway." I actually gasped and fell against the wall. It made complete sense to me now how awful that night must have been for her. As her mom, I was utterly horrified. When Jada first started talking about this incident, I didn't have any idea what to expect. I didn't know if this was now over, if she had said what she needed to say and that was it, and we'd never hear about it again. But what actually happened was the floodgates opened. Rather than becoming frightened by this memory, she suddenly became very curious and wanted to know more about it. Jada started drawing a lot of pictures. It was worrying to see this kind of artwork turning up in Jada's drawings. Obviously, this was something that was on her mind.
A lot of people would say that this is a kid with a very vivid imagination. When I heard the story from Mary Helen, the mask, the whole 9 yards, there was fire, I thought Jada had probably just seen a movie on TV about the KKK. That is my only explanation that I could say.
Once I began to connect the night of the Festival of the Fire with this picture that she continuously drew, I began to piece things together. From when she spoke of choosing me, choosing her father, her sister, some of these fears and insecurities that seemed just a little bit beyond the normal for a child. All of a sudden, I began to realize that we might be talking about a past life. This was definitely one of the most horrific moments in my life because I was completely and utterly out of control. I had no way to help my little girl. It was really painful to see her that way, and there was nothing I could do. I figured this had something to do with religious persecution because of the gold crosses. Her drawings and her descriptions of them made it seem like it was something that took place in the Middle Ages. I decided to focus on the robe and the crosses and the fire from her pictures. My research ended up taking me to a place high in the Pyrenees in France, to a place called Montségur. A sect of people lived there called the Cathars. They were persecuted by the Christians during the Crusades in 1244. The Cathars were a group of people who had very high moral standards. They were persecuted by the Christians for the fact that they didn't follow the Catholic Church. High on a hill, over 3,000 feet in the Pyrenees, was the last stronghold of the Cathars in 1244. And when I saw a picture of Montségur, it looked strangely similar to the hill of Uisneach, where the Festival of Fires had taken place, and Jada had had her traumatic memory of being burned alive. The Cathars were given a choice where they could have gold crosses stitched to their clothing and they would profess to convert to Christianity, or they were going to be tortured and burned alive. So in an act of defiance, the last remaining group of Cathars walked themselves into the fire.